Third leg of the stool, the herbivory. This is our team here, so of course I've worked a lot with Richard Pillins on this, but we dragged a few researchers from the University of New South Wales in, and the Bardi-Jawi Rangers, of course, are real true partners in every sense of the word in this particular project. They had a lot of intellectual input, as you'll probably see as I go through the talk. So the main questions that we wanted to explore, pretty similar to what Marcial said, they're pretty simple questions in the Kimberley, because we're going to start at the beginning. So how important is herbivory in the Kimberley, which means what are the main species of herbivores there, how much are they eating, what are they eating, how important are they to the system, and how important is the parts of the system to them. And Marcial showed this great slide of how all the habitats are different. We just focused on one in quite some detail, and that was seagrass habitats, but of course not all seagrass habitats are equal. There were really two main types of seagrass habitats in the Kimberley, or in this part of the Kimberley we've worked in, which is the same area that James and Marcial have talked about, that area around One Arm Point, Talon Island, Thalassia, aka turtle grass, is very abundant in the system, and the other one is inhalus, quite a long shrubbery, so probably can't tell quite so well from those photos, but they are visually strikingly very different. What we know from studies of herbivory in seagrass systems elsewhere in the world is that typically in cool temperate systems, herbivory tends to be low. In tropical systems it tends to be higher. Lots of confounding factors with that, not least of which is historic human pressure on herbivores in temperate systems, which are typically places like North America, Europe, Southern Australia, where there's been a lot of pressure on the system, including taking out the fish, taking out the geese and the swans and the pigs and Sweden. So what have we got in the Kimberley? This is kind of a busy slide, but it's really max N. Marcial talked to you explaining what max N is, so I don't have to. The two stars in the Google Earth image up the top are the two places where this was done. This was remote underwater video deployments that Adriana and Rudy from USW did on one trip, which really kind of complement the work that Marcial's team's been doing. It's just focused on seagrass beds, these two places, so Delan and Narwin. Narwin is the top end of Sunday Island. What I want you to focus on is not all the species names and relative abundance. It's really just kind of three take-home points. The main one is pink is high in both places. Pink is the golden line rabbitfish, aka barbel, and that's really consistent with what Marcial found, that this is a characteristic species that is found in the seagrass beds of the Kimberley in quite some abundance. The other point is that we actually found in one place quite an abundance of surgeonfish, one particular species. That was in the northern part of Talon Island, Sunday Island, sorry, northern part from Narwin, where there's a big rock in the middle of the seagrass meadow, and that big rock effectively acts as kind of a reef, and they tend to make these excursions, these foraging excursions out into the seagrass, and that's where we'll pick them up. The other one, the third point, is that they're not all fish. Pointy stick. There are turtles as well. The video picks up turtles, they're there, but we found that more effective was doing these kind of boat transects on a rising tide. So when the tide's low, of course there's not enough water for these turtles to be up on those seagrass meadows, but on the rising tide, the turtles are moving up and they're sort of swooshing over the meadow as the tide swooshes in as well. So that gives us a few clues about some of the likely candidates that we could focus on. But before we got there, we wanted to find out, well, compared to other places in the world, how much are these guys eating? What's the importance of herbivory in the system? So here I go, I take my little folding picnic table, I go up on the seagrass flat, I find nice intact seagrass leaves. This is the Thalassia. It's actually from a project a few years ago in the Caribbean, but it's the Thalassia. Nice intact seagrass shoots, clean them up, take a photo, put them back in, come back later, 24 hours later, pick them up, photograph them again, and then by subtraction calculate consumption. So this is the kind of consumption we measured in the Caribbean over 24 hours. So, but here's my Kimberley. So can you see that very well? So here's the Thalassia, in a Thalassia meadow, and I pegged out seagrass. There's the seagrass leaf there, for example, and 24 hours later, there's nothing there. Gone. So that's the kind of consumption rates that we're getting in the Kimberley. Now, to calculate sort of net consumption versus production, I go back to the work that Gary Kendrick was doing in Project 2.4. So Gary was doing these hole punch measurements and measuring how much the seagrass was growing. So at the same time, in the same place, I was doing these tethering experiments, measuring how much was getting eaten, and then through some nimble maths, just do some calculations of what is the net consumption as a percentage of production. So this is Thalassia, and these are 1, 2, 3 places. So Jalan, Langi, so Jalan, Talon Island, and Malun and Langi on Sunday Island. These are kind of insane numbers. These are world record, seriously highest values ever recorded in the literature. So up to 1,000% of daily production at some places, and sometimes at this top end of Sunday Island, is getting eaten. It basically means that all of it's getting eaten much faster than it's growing. You know, it's obviously a very skewed distribution. Mean may not be very meaningful. So median maybe, but even if we just look at median, on average, we calculated that more was getting eaten than was actually growing. But you know, if we go back and look at those, there is some seagrass around. Yeah, it's kind of short and stubby, but there's some seagrass around. So there's a few possible explanations there. The most likely is that herbivory is really, really patchy. So you see it's kind of from lots and lots to not very much. And so in any given patch of seagrass, it's probably enough relief from the grazing pressure that there's enough time for it to grow just a bit before it gets nailed again. In contrast, in Halus, so same 3 places. Oh my God, for time. Getting carried away again. Same 3 places, but around half the time we did it, nothing was getting eaten, and then every now and then we'd get it get smashed. It grows slower than Thalassia, so as a percentage of production, it's still all kind of balances out, but it's still on average slightly lower consumption than production. That means that probably a little bit more Inhalus grows than is getting eaten, which probably means that Inhalus actually contributes more to the detrital cycle in the Kimberley than Thalassia does. So what's to be done with sort of the possibility that growth of Inhalus can subsidise other elements of the system? That's how much they're eating, but how important is it to the herbivores themselves? So we had to kind of pick a couple of winners. The story with Bardi-Jawi, the rabbitfish, is we hadn't seen the video footage yet to know, and so I'm walking around in the reef flat looking at the seagrass with Trevor Sampi and Dwayne George one day, and we're picking up the tethers and we're looking at them and looking at the bite marks, and I'm going, well guys, what do you think we should focus on? And so Trevor gets out his throwing spear and he grabs this fella here. We cut it open. It's got lots of seagrass inside. So okay, let's look at that. So we did 60 gut contents of those. About 3/4 of the gut content on average has got seagrass in it. But I also did isotope studies to know yes, they're eating it, but is it important for their nutrition? As kind of a Bayesian mixing model approach, but this is just proportion of diet to the three main things that rabbitfish eat. So they do sort of nibble on a bit of cyanobacteria from time to time. They will eat macroalgae and seaweed, and then seagrass. And seagrass is thalassia that was all thalassia. And in terms of supplement nutrition, so sort of 75–80% on average of their nutrition is coming from thalassia. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. The other winner, of course, was green turtles. Green turtles are pretty culturally important for the Bardi-Jawi, and so knowing that other places in the world, green turtles can eat a lot of seagrass, this was another obvious one for us to look at. Getting the stomach contents, of course, is a little bit trickier, but through sort of random sort of encounters at the boat ramp and asking hunters to have their stomach contents, which they would willingly donate with kind of a quizzical expression. You know, that's the bit that they're throwing away, and that's the bit that I'm asking for, so they're happy to give it to me. Anyway, so between the gut contents and the isotopes, there's kind of a hint that there's two different types of things going on. The gut contents were either all seagrass or either all seaweed. And similarly, there's a little bit of a bimodal distribution happening in the isotopes that's sort of hinting that they're focusing on seaweed, so macroalgae, mostly sargassum and some red algae, or seagrass, and seagrass again in this case is thalassia. But on average, most of the turtles, most of the time, based on their isotope data, are eating seagrass. Last bit of the study, and this again was really an extension that was one that was kind of due to our interactions with the rangers and finding out what they wanted was, you know, let's find out a little bit more about what the turtles are doing about their habitat use. So we were able to bankroll a bunch of tags. So we bought 6. They had a few sort of in a case in the back shed, so we used those as well. And then these are all of the fast lock GPS positions overlaid onto seagrass map that was developed as part of the Geolong study. So the seagrass map isn't very accurate, and this just arrived last night, but I want to zoom in on just this one turtle. This one turtle. These lines are home range, 50%, 95% home range. Kernel utilization distribution, overlaid on the seagrass meadow, that kind of was the western end of Ewange, Sunday Island. And essentially what this turtle is doing is exactly what we observed in our boat surveys. It's hanging around on the edge of the reef. This is where we caught it, by the way. We caught it here, we moved it over here, tagged it, let it go, it came back here. It's moving in on the high tide, occupying that seagrass bed, and then moving back off again at the low tide, sort of hanging around in these places. And that's what our data are telling us. So the last point I wanted to make is the great thing about the turtle tagging component was not just some of the science that it allowed us to do in finding out about the turtles, but the extension opportunities that it gave. So we were going into the schools and giving some talks as part of what we were doing, but the opportunity for the school kids and the kids from the community to come out with us was really one of the most rewarding parts of the study. They got a real kick out of it. The rangers loved having them on the boat, and it was a real success, I think. So, lots of thanks. The rangers, of course, and the traditional owners who really made the study possible. Seagrass team and the students, James and the staff at KMRS, and then our esteemed leader for being patient with me when I went off the track from time to time.